I'm Maria Adegwale, and I'm Director of the environmental justice think tank, Capacity Global.
Where did all the blue skies go? Poison is the wind that blows from the north, south and east.
Why focus on environmental justice? Well, you can't make the world a better place without thinking about the social, the environmental, and the economic. Environmental justice is about all three. You can't work on one without the other.
We drive fast cars, we get big houses, it's a fast city, so people are not conditioned to think about the environment.
To me, the term environmental justice is a relatively new term. Meeting Maria from Capacity Global helped me to strengthen the concept I was having in my head about the importance of how could we were trying to run a project where we could get the African Caribbean community and refugee community into issues of environment. And we realised with a brother called Sagai from the Evelyn Old Food Unit that it was more important that a person, how they lived, what their surroundings were, what was going on in their work life, what was going on in their home life, what was going on in their head, was more important than the saving of the whales or the saving of what we call the earth, because apparently we are the earth.
I think there's a growing environmental justice movement. I don't think everyone's using the phrase environmental justice, but they are using the phrase, we want a clean environment, and they are talking about human rights, and they are talking about local democracy, and they are talking about access to information. And all of those things are environmental justice.
When you're thinking about the environment and in terms of like pollution, CO2 emissions and stuff, I think that there's a lot of pressure on actual citizens to cut pollution, but really it does start with the corporate people.
From the very beginning, we've always worked with government. Whether we like it or not, they're the ones quite often in power. But you know, the power given to them is the power we give to them. So we've always tried to make sure that what we do is help government think through some of their policies, think through the impact their policies will have on the communities we work with.
Mercy, mercy me. All things ain't what they used to be. No.
If the corporate society does not set the example for us, we can't really follow, because it's going to be like they're dictating to us what we're supposed to be doing, but then we don't see them doing the same thing.
What's been important over the last 10 years is that we're trusted, not only with government but with community groups as well. And we've played a really important part in putting community groups with policymakers, so communities have their voice and have their say in the kind of policies that we need, not only in the UK but globally.
Oil wasted on the oceans and upon our seas, fish full of mercury.
Partnership's been really important to Capacity Global. I don't think we could have done as much without our partners, and those partners have been varied. We've worked with small civil society community groups in the UK and other countries around the world. We've worked with governments in Uganda, Sierra Leone, the UK and the US. And we've also worked with large NGOs like Friends of the Earth or Greenpeace to tackle some of our key aims, which is to allow everyone to have a clean and healthy environment.
If they had like workshops on environmental awareness so that people could attend it and then they could tell us different ways of how to keep the environment more clean and less polluted, that would make a difference, because the more aware you are of where you're living and the environment, the better.
We also have the Sussex project. That's been happening over the last 3 years, and we've been really lucky to work with local community groups and university researchers who have worked together, quite often for the first time, to look at how you develop good research which has community involvement. So it's not just the researchers telling us about what the new solutions are, it's actually about communities telling researchers what they need.
Environmental justice is the unequal burden of environmental problems, such as pollution, on a certain demographic of society. Environmental justice is also the acknowledgement that environmental problems don't come about by accident, and a lot of the time they're caused by one part of society, and the rest of us have to deal with it. And finally, environmental justice is about supporting everyone to take the necessary action against the problem. Often people who are faced with pollution and poverty and inequality aren't the people who are taking the action on the front line and stuff. And if we need to tackle the problems of environmental issues on the mass scale that they are happening, we all need to support each other to take the necessary action. So environmental justice is about acknowledging the problems and supporting everyone to take the action together.
And most importantly, it's actually been about throwing out a challenge to other environmental organisations and civil society about how we work together, how we put both the social connection with the environmental connection.
Oh, mercy, mercy me.
The next big step for us is our Be Fair campaign. That's going to be telling the story, how individuals, communities, neighbourhoods and government can actually do something around environmental inequalities. Small steps, large steps, big thinking. Ultimately, it's about illustrating that environmental inequalities isn't something that just happens, and it isn't something we have to accept. The Be Fair campaign will show what else you can do, not just campaigning or talking to your government, but also how you as an individual can tackle environmental inequalities.
Become one with nature. You know, be in nature, smell the trees, smell the grass around you. Those things, that actually helps the environment. You're not going there to abuse it, you're going there just to be in there.
It's not 50 years down the line in terms of the destruction of climate change, it's now. And so people are really getting angry and really seeing the urgency of it. So we live in such a violent system. Doing nothing when we're seeing such violence is a form of violence in itself. You know, being quiet about such a political act is a political act in itself, and we really, really need to raise our voices together.
What they used to do, radiation underground and in the sky, animals and birds who live nearby our lives. Oh, mercy.
The next 10 years are going to create a lot of challenges and a lot of barriers. I think one of the biggest challenges will be how we, the environmental justice movement, actually tell human stories behind our campaigns. The real impacts on individuals, families, communities, neighbourhoods of poor environments, but also showing the positive examples that good, clean, healthy environments have on people's lives and livelihoods. The next 10 years, well, I guess we're trying to do ourselves out of a job. We're trying to make sure environmental inequality doesn't happen again.
All things and what they used to be. What about this overcrowded land? How much more will you from me? Can't you stand?